Hey, Havenites. It is Thursday night, which means it's time for some shop talk. I'm Josh Olive with Haven Comics, and we're going to be talking comics tonight and looking forward to a great show. So stick around after this. Alrighty, it is time to talk some shop, talk some comics, and see what's going on. We are supposed to have a guest on tonight. Hopefully, he will be able to make it. There's a chance that the weather might be throwing things off for him, this hurricane, but hopefully not. And he should be joining us soon. In the meantime, I know we've got this guy around. What's happening, Alan? All hail the conquering hero.
That's it right there. Hey, look, serious business right quick. Two items of business we need to talk about. One, if you are in the track of the hurricane, please be careful. I know we got friends and people that we don't want to call friends and all sorts of stuff down in Florida. I got a friend of mine that I game with online. She goes, or gamer tag. She goes by Jade. She's kind of stuck in the middle of it with her job. Be careful. I've got other friends in Virginia that I game with online. Barefoot, grab them youngins, hop down on that front porch and enjoy that storm, girl. And to everybody else, y'all just be careful out there. I mean, even we're expecting a ton of rain out of it.
This is a true statement.
So it's we looked at it this morning on the satellite radar, and I don't think people realize those storm bands at 7 o'clock this morning were already stretching all the way up into Maine. I mean, this storm is massive.
Well, it's just getting stronger as it's headed toward land. So, yeah.
Whenever you type that out again, you need to add the words "and beautiful." Second piece of business. I ended up having to leave about 15 till 6 Wednesday night, but I got mine and I got it signed. But more importantly, I'm excited over this one. I got the cover that's been eluding me and I got it signed.
And remarked with this little bat remark.
It's finally in my hands. I'm happy and content. Personally handed to me by the man Mark Spears himself. I hope that y'all were able to get by there and get a copy. If not,
well, let me just put it to you this way. I just got, that special limited edition Haven exclusive cover that we got?
I sure do.
It kind of looked like the VHS cover with all the stickers on it and everything. I just got a picture of the empty space. Where that cover was on the shelf.
Yep.
With "How Could You?" from one of my customers there at Haven. And he said, "I don't know anything about this book. I never heard of it before. I just want one because there's only 10 in the world. And my trip to the comic shop is now ruined. FOMO. If somebody doesn't pick theirs up in a month, I call first dibs."
Do I happen to know that customer?
I don't know if you know him or not. But that's funny.
That is funny. Now, y'all don't need to be sleeping on that Frankenstein cover. That Frankenstein cover was cool looking.
Well, and on top of that, he said that he's going to do a frame variant like that with other characters for issues 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, etc. So you'll have people who are going to want all of those frame variants, just like the old Marvel 25th anniversary frame variant. But yeah, for anybody who doesn't know what we're talking about, we had Mark Spears on the show last week to talk about his comic book Monsters, which was released a week early, sold out at the distributor level the day before it actually hit a single store shelf anywhere. And then it has sold out across the country at comic shops. And it is going to a second print already. It's a great book. If you haven't read it, and I know the availability is pretty scarce because people are just buying it up. But holy smokes, what a book. You showed off your cover, and I feel compelled to show off mine, although I just knocked it over. So hang on.
And, while he's getting that, it's a really, really, really good story. It has the old horror feel to it, which is always great. It's one of those that if you read it, you will not be disappointed in it. Literally on the first page, you got Josh Olive himself. And then a couple of pages later, you've got like this really creepy scene with a kid looking out his window at night, like with the TV glowing in the background, and then you see the old man across the street. I mean, he just did a really good job setting stuff like that up.
That's the creepiest part of the whole book to me.
Oh, yeah.
Because the rest of it is stuff that you're like primed, okay, you're expecting, but that's just creepy.
Yep.
All right. You see the glimmer and shine on that book, boys and girls?
That is pretty.
I'm going to take it out of the bag here. Notice it still has that same glimmer and shine because that cover is metal. That is gorgeous. And look at that signature. So sweet.
Now, see, that's what somebody should be getting FOMO over right there.
Should, although there's more of these out there than there were the Haven exclusive cover.
Did you see the creature cover that he posted for issue 2?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah. That thing's gorgeous.
Yeah. Yeah. I very much saw that and loved it. So yeah, that right there is beautiful.
What was I? Oh, I was looking for this. Oh,
wow! Not only was my phone trying to record everything that I said.
Mike, I actually owe you an apology, brother. I literally walked out the door Wednesday night and completely and totally forgot to say goodbye to you. I am so sorry for being rude.
Rude.
That was rude. I mean, that was bad. I definitely deserve one of these.
Boo!
You do. That's true.
It was good seeing you Wednesday night, though. Actually, I mean, it was fun being up at the store Wednesday night after everybody got off work for a little while, getting to see it.
It was. We had a good turnout. It wasn't crazy heavy because the weather, I think, looked a little foreboding, so it kept people away. But it was a steady stream of folks the whole time.
Look, Bug always picking up my slack. She knows how to handle business.
Well, you might not have done a lot of things right, but she was raised okay.
Yeah, you know what? I did do a good job on that one. Her mama did a good job on that one, too. What are we? Oh, okay. That was Tot's always stopping by. He's probably knee-deep in Warhammer by now. Look, we still need to do our Where Are They Now episode. I mean, we need to get you and Dustin and Justin on here, and we do the Where Are They Now? And you can even share it out to y'all's old channel just to freak people out one more time.
All right. Our guest for tonight said he tried to log on, but that his browser told him it does not accept StreamYard's technology. That's the first time I heard of that. You're the IT man. What does he need to do?
What type of browser is he using? That's going to be my first question.
I'll ask him.
I mean, like I'm using Google Chrome. What are you using?
I'm also using Google Chrome.
Either that or Netscape.
Netscape is still around?
I tell you what, I like Netscape back in the day.
He's in Safari, so he's on a Mac.
Oh, okay. Well, I don't do Apple products, so I cannot help there at all.
It's weird because you can do it from an iPhone.
Yeah, but I know Apple treats their laptops and desktops a little differently. And that's part of the reason why I don't like Apple. It's pretty and it's shiny, but they herd their users like cattle. And I'm an under the hood guy. I want to crack it open and see what all I can make it do. I will let you deal with that for a minute. And so we're kind of not sitting here.
Yeah.
Let me hit some highlights right quick. So for those of you that have been watching for a while, y'all know that I had kind of like a slight unhealthy obsession with Mooneyham's version of Scarlet in the new G.I. Joe. Once it migrated over to Image Comics. Nobody does Scarlet like Mooneyham, and I really did not dig too deep into this. I think the artist is Otto Schmidt.
Yes, that's correct.
Vampire Wonder Woman is giving Scarlet a run for her money. Mike Kozlowski, you need to check this out. Next up, hey, one big thing that I did want to discuss about books is Mike put any good books this week. Gotham by Gaslight, The Kryptonian Age, issue 4. They have done a tremendous amount of world building in this. And I don't understand why they're calling it the Kryptonian Age.
Because I've wondered that too, and I think they're gonna get to it.
How many is this supposed to be, like 12 issues, or is it going to be ongoing?
I think it's one of those cases where, and it's a tactic that they're employing more and more frequently. They're listing it initially as a mini series and seeing how it does, and if it's successful, then they'll keep it going. That's what they're doing with Green Arrow, right?
Yep. Because I think Green Arrow was only supposed to be 6 issues, and
6 issues.
15
and then
or
it became
16
12, and then it became ongoing.
And it has been great. But yeah, Gotham by Gaslight, I like what they're doing with it. I mean, don't get me wrong. I like the way they did Constantine. I like the way they've done Alan Scott. The way Alan Scott gets the power ring in this particular issue. It's been really good. It's just, trying to figure out why they're calling it the Kryptonian Age.
That's a fair question.
Oh, look what we got.
What?
Bam!
Oh, hey, it worked.
Yeah, I got my daughter's laptop.
Excellent. Oh, how are you doing? Are you staying out of the path of the hurricane decently?
Right this moment I am, but it's coming my way. So it'll be here, I think, middle of the night.
Well, that'll be a fun thing to wake up to.
Oh, yeah, I'll be waking up to it, I'm sure, in the middle of the night. Just hope every time a hurricane comes my direction, several years ago, one came up, knocked down 9 trees in my yard.
That's a lot of trees.
It was okay. And then a few years back, another one came up on the East Coast, strong enough where it knocked down 2 large trees in the back corner of my house. I was in Detroit at the time. My wife calls me up at the airport. Those 2 trees in the back corner? Yeah. So one fell forward, clipped the house, put a hole in my boy's bedroom ceiling, and landed on your car. And I was like, what? And the next time she goes, the other tree, she calls back later, the other tree went over to behind the house, basically, clipped the back of your house there, and landed on our deck and smashed our air conditioning unit. I said, quit calling me.
Oh, my Lord.
Wow.
So yeah.
Wow, that's a nightmare.
So hopefully that won't happen this time. I remember the first one though was where the 9 trees fell. It was a big tree in my backyard, directly behind the kitchen here, and we decided to come sleep in the living room. It was so loud we didn't hear it, but that big tree fell over. Luckily, it went the opposite direction, and missed the house that time. So hopefully not tonight.
Wow, yeah, no doubt. I imagine you got a lot smaller trees now.
Well, the ones I have a lot of trees here in my house, so unfortunately, I like them when it's shading me from the sun. I don't
Yep.
like them during hurricanes.
No, that's rough. That's rough. Wow.
Yeah,
So,
sorry I'm late, guys. I just I got sidetracked and lost track of time.
well,
I wolfed down some pizza real quick and then hopped on. I was trying to
you're
actually
speaking our language now.
Yeah,
Image
really.
just sent me a text for me correct, try to fix something they couldn't solve, and I was trying to do that, and I saw your message, Josh, and I was like, oh wait, that's right, it's right now. Okay, I gotta go.
So my question is, what kind of pizza?
Horrible Pizza Hut pizza. That was $7.
Well, yeah. Hey,
I'm
you
a
remember?
pizza snob, but on occasion, hey, we need something quick and cheap. It's down the street.
Well, do you remember when Pizza Hut was like the good pizza?
It was a delicacy. You walk in, they had like the black. It was served like in a black, still pan, and they brought it out to piping hot, and it looked. I saw a picture from like a 1980 Pizza Hut from a restaurant where the presenter is showing the pizza. Said that's not the pizza you get today.
No.
No, now it's just whatever it is. I always feel like I'm going to check my fillings, my teeth when I take a bite of the thin and crispy crust, because I feel like it's going to chip something out.
Yeah. It Pizza Hut pizza is just such a radical change from what it used to be, because it used to be the good stuff.
Yeah, it's not.
We need to bring back Pizza Hut from the 80s, and we need to bring back the Godfathers.
I was about to say Godfather's pizza is the other one.
I love Godfathers. You'll still see a Godfathers like in a gas station somewhere here and there. Like I think Florida has Godfathers pizza in gas stations, but it's still not the Godfathers I remember.
Yeah.
No. We have a local pizza place now. It's a chain. There's like 5 of them, I think, and there's not a lot. It's called Lost Pizza. It's over in Madison, and it tastes like, memory-wise, what Pizza Hut pizza used to taste like.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah.
Well, next time up in your neck of the woods, I'll have to go check it out. Again, my daughter does live in Huntsville, and so I need to come up and visit. I've never been to her place yet.
Oh yeah, we got to fix that. But yeah, we'll take you over to Lost Pizza and enjoy that. We also have a place on Jordan Lane now, close to Jordan Lane and what's that, Bradford? That or Holmes rather. It's got it's called Matza, and it's like that thin crust New York style, and it's really for real like thin crust New York style, and it's fantastic.
Well, if you're ever in Atlanta, let me know, and I'll take you to my favorite place down in Buckhead. It's called Verasano's Pizzeria, and it's just like the best pizza I've had. Like Rachel Ray, back when she was so popular with it, like listed as one of the top 10 pizza places in America. Every time I bring a friend comes to town for a visit, that's my go-to spot, and they always are like in love with it. To the point, like I took one guy there one time for a lunch or dinner, and then the next day, hey, can we go back again? They do have if you're ever in the Atlanta airport in the Delta Terminal A in the back, they have a piano bar restaurant back there. It's not quite as good as the restaurant itself, but for a airport restaurant, it's great, and it's also served really quick. It's like really quick pizza. So I recommend that, and I guess I should be being paid for this.
We all support the things we love, right?
That's right.
Speaking of things we love, let's talk comics. You've been in the comics game for a long, long time. It's what, 30 plus years at this point, right?
I broke in as Bob Burns' assistant, working on the Flaming Carrot comics from Dark Horse in 1989, summer of 1989, right after I graduated college. So that's 35 years now?
Yeah.
Jeez.
Yeah. That's no small amount of time. And in that time, you've worked on some of the coolest books out there.
Thank you.
You have let's see here. You worked on Flaming Carrot, which one of those quirky, weird characters, but everybody who lived during that time period has like got this memory of Flaming Carrot, right?
Yeah, it is. It's what got me back into comics. And I was a huge comic fan actually growing up. Obviously, I was more of a Marvel zombie, and then I got to college and kind of faded away, thinking, decided, hey, my money needs to go towards um, girls and going out.
That's fair.
Yeah, I mean, can't argue that.
And so I quit collecting comics. But when towards the end of my college career, when now there is light. When I had a steady, serious girlfriend who's now my wife, I started kind of getting back into picking up comics. I'll go visit her in the summer when she would work, and rather than just hang around her house with her family, I would go to around town. I found a comic book shop, and I'll go there every time I go, which was every weekend. I would buy more comics. I got back in, hey, I had missed out on Watchmen. I picked it up. I was a big Cerebus fan growing up, so I got back into watching Cerebus and Alan Moore's Swamp Thing. So I got, and then Cerebus number 104, Flaming Carrot made an appearance in it.
Mm-hmm.
And he had made an appearance earlier in the earlier Cerebus, and I read, of course, but when I read the 104, I was like, well, this is interesting. Let me look into this comic. And when I did, it really helped get me back into comics. And the best thing about it was I found out that Bob lived in Atlanta. I went to the University of Georgia, which is an hour east of Atlanta. Found out that Bob actually went to the University of Georgia himself. And what I noticed that Bob did in the credits, he had assistants. At one point it was like Evan Dorkin, assisted by Evan Dorkin this issue, or Mike Hoffman, some other who did a lot of comics in the early 80s with like PC and stuff and Twisted Tales and things. And I was like, well, hey, he uses assistants, gives him credit. So, and he's local to me, and I was graduating. So I actually just sent him a letter, to his P.O. box and say, hey, I graduated Athens and UGA where you went. Want to break into comics. Thought I was going to be an artist at the time, which I obviously was not going to end up being. And so you use assistants. I'd love to come work with you. I'll do it for free. It's like an internship, whatever it happens to be. And to my surprise, about 3 weeks later, he called me up and asked me to come visit him, and then offered me a job with him. Actually paid me, more than minimum wage at the time, but it still wasn't enough to make a living. But I didn't ask for to be paid, so he volunteered to pay me something. And I worked with Bob. That's when I started working on issue 23. I think I worked through 23 through 29 on Flaming Carrot. But I do a little bit of things here. I transcribe a lot. Bob would always walk around with a tape recorder and record every thought he had that he thought was a good idea. Or be out with Bob and he'd record a conversation he would have with the girl in the bar. So it didn't matter. He was always recording something. So I would be like, hey, Joe, just transcribe this tape. And I would sit there and listening to it and tape it in and listen to it, type it in. And once in a while, he had a great habit too. Like he would yawn and not stop talking, or I'm like, Bob, what's this say right here? And he had to give it to me because it says this, and it tells me what it said. Or there'd be a conversation. I'll go skip, fast forward, fast forward, fast forward, fast forward, fast forward. Okay, stop. There's comics again.
How funny.
So that would be that, and like they'll do the panel layouts for them, and occasionally let me little ink something in the background, and a little help with the lettering sometimes with Roxanne. Well, that's how I broke into comics. That was a interesting way to do it. But through Bob, though, that's how I met. Sort of doing conventions with him. That's how I met early guys. I met Brian Ballin, Dave Stevens, Bernie Wrightson, Al Williamson, et cetera, et cetera. I met so many people.
I tell you, Bernie Wrightson is one of my great regrets that I never got to meet Bernie Wrightson.
Bernie's a great guy. He was a great guy. I remember. I'm sorry. Go ahead. You finish your story.
No, go ahead.
Now I remember sometime like I would say late 90s, early 2000s. I'm at San Diego Comic-Con, and I'm coming up behind the Hyatt, which is where a lot of professionals would gather at. It used to be a bar on the second floor. And I'm walking up from behind, and as I'm coming up, Bernie's coming out of the back of it. And I think Bernie had been at the bar for a little while. And and I'm walking up with my younger brother who has never been to San Diego before. And as I'm walking up, Bernie's walking out, and he sees me, and he yells, puts his arm, Joe, and he comes over and gives like this big, bear hug. And then I'm looking at my younger brother who was there and had never met Bernie before. And I'm like, you know what? 10-year-old Joe is kind of thinking this is pretty cool to think that Bernie Wrightson knows me and is hugging me.
Yeah.
And then my younger brother gets to see it. So I thought, for me, that was like a little cool, being a fan moment, realizing these are my friends now.
Yeah.
So that was great.
Him and Herb Trimpe were the two that I always regretted that I never got to meet.
I don't think I ever met Herb either. But it's funny, this same San Diego Comic-Con with my brother there, he was wandering around the convention by himself. And again, this is another cool moment, for my fanboy part of me. And he's wandering around, and he goes by Dave Stevens' table, and he's looking at Dave's stuff. And Dave has never met John before. And he looks at John, and he goes, "You've got to be a Pruett." And I was like, wow, he recognized my younger brother,
The force is strong with him.
With me not even being there with him, but he just, picks out, you got to be a Pruett. And I thought that was hilarious.
That's great.
He liked that too.
I bet. That's fantastic. But you did some things. You worked on Negative Burn, which was one of the coolest anthology books of all time, where you had these high-powered comic creators in their prime, and people you never heard of. Yeah. All in the same book. And so these guys were getting to let loose and tell stories that they wanted to tell, that they couldn't necessarily tell at Marvel or DC or whatever. And they're doing these things. And then you got these guys nobody ever heard of right there next to them. So they're getting the exposure. These guys are having the freedom to tell these stories. And that book, Negative Burn, was such a great book, and you got to play a big role in that. So was that just good timing, good luck, or how did you get into that?
Well, Negative Burn happened because me and my brother Jim, who's still in the business, and a friend of ours named Chuck Moore.
Why did you do this when you said Jim? Is it
because he doesn't really exist? He's my twin brother. But have you ever seen us together? No. But I don't know why I did that. But
that's awesome.
So me and Jim and Chuck Moore were sitting around my house one time, and we're all trying, breaking in. And I had set up a project Kilroy is here at Caliber, but it was kind of getting slow going, coming out. The artist was a total flake. And Jim just mentioned, hey, we should do an anthology of our friends. I said, that's a good idea. And so Chuck came up with the name Negative Burn. And so I don't think it's like the first 5 issues. Maybe Chuck and I both co-edited it, and I'm doing it again, co-editing it. And before I eventually just took it, went with it myself and went through 50 issues doing it. And so, at the beginning, Chuck was like, okay, hey, this is new artist friend of mine named Mike Maringo. He can do a cover for us. That's great. And I had here's this other new artist named Andrew Robinson, and let's have him do a cover. So what I did for the first couple of issues, I did flip covers, where it's like both front and back had a cover, and it just flipped over. And so Andrew did the first issue, and Mike did the first issue. So they just both on each side. And those are 2 guys who went on to have really good careers in the business. On our first issue, both unknowns at the time.
Yeah.
And so I would go out and say, okay, I remember being at a New York show. It was a New York Comic Con. It was maybe a Greenberg show. I can't remember. Greater Eastern Comics, maybe, convention up in New York, and going out to dinner with Brian Ballin, and I remember Richard Case being there, and I think Andrew Robinson, maybe 1 or 2 other guys. And I would say, hey, I'm putting this book together. I talked to Brian Ballin right next to me. And I said, hey, do you have anything you can put in Negative Burn in this book? And he goes, oh, I might have this, that, and the other. So, Brian got in, and Brian was all 50 issues, the only person to be in all the issues. And it's like, well, that'd be great. That's a good anchor to have. And then it became kind of a little ideas like, who can't I get into the book? No, it doesn't hurt to ask, right? So next thing I know, I'm like, asking, oh, hey, I got Alan Moore to be in the book. I got Neil Gaiman to be in the book. So I had Brian Ballin in it. Who else? I mean, I had a cover for Michael Kaluta on issue 6. Here's Paul Galassi doing a story and cover in issue 7. What other books out there, indie books I like right now? Hey, I love Jeff Smith's Bone, who I just became friendly with, just kind of starting out. I said, hey, let me do a story of you in here. And like he was in issue 3. And funny because Jeff actually had agreed to do a short story, and it ended up just being like a 6-page process of how he does his pages and stuff. So the short story, I remember him calling me up and going, hey, Joe, Disney Adventures just asked me to do a short story. Can I use this story for that one instead? I'll let you do something else. So he took that story out and put it in Disney Adventures, but I still have him in issue 3, right before he took off.
Yeah, he took off like a shot.
Yeah, I think, and don't quote me on this or anything, but I think I remember I met Jeff, I think at my first San Diego Comic-Con, which was in 1990, and or maybe it wasn't then. He was one of the first ones because I think Nigger Burnett came out to 93, so I doubt it was 1990 when I met Jeff. I must have met Jeff in 92. And
now,
go ahead.
When you do a book like Negative Burn, and it is an anthology series, what time? And because I'm kind of interested in like some of the behind the scenes things, like some of the conversations. When you contact somebody like Alan Moore and Neil Gaiman, what type of sales pitch do you give them to say, hey, you need to come over here and do this for a few pages?
For the established creators, the sales pitch will like, hey, look, you make your money doing what you're doing at Marvel and DC. Come over here and have fun. So do something fun, something short and fun. I think like David Lloyd from V for Vendetta sent me a short story that he had already done, drawn but never published anywhere. And he says, you can use this if you want it. I said, yeah, I'll take David Lloyd in here. Let's do that. And I think that's the same thing with the Paul Galassi project. A story came in. It was something that was already complete, but it hadn't been published. You want this? Yep, I'll take that. So then there's other guys like, and I said, Mike Wieringo was an early issue, and Andrew Robinson, and John Cassaday. Well, I guess John came out in issue 28, which I don't think was his first project story.
Cannot believe we just lost John Cassaday.
I know that was a heartbreaking. It really hit me kind of hard.
Him and Carl Moline, like both, just bam, bam.
Same week. Yeah, I was really looking forward. I was at Baltimore Comic Con this last weekend, and I was looking forward to seeing John. Matter of fact, when they asked me what I want to sit next to, and I said Jim Starlin, Tony Harris, John Cassaday, and I sat next to 2 of them. The other one, unfortunately, wasn't there.
Yeah, that's awful.
But yeah, going back to then I just started. Who can I get? I get Mobius. Let me find out if I can get Mobius. So I got in touch with his agent and got a lot of covers and stuff from him. And then I did a series called Mobius Comics from that connection as well. And it's like I even tried to one time get John Cougar Mellencamp for a cover because he's a painter.
Yeah.
And finds out that my wife's second cousin played in his band when he started out. So up in my wife's from Indiana. Well, and so I actually trying to hunt down John Mellencamp's home address, and I went through my wife's grandmother, who went to the family and said, "Here's his address." So I sent him a care package saying, "Hey, here's what I'm doing. Here's a bunch of Nigger Burn, and I'd love to have get one of your paintings. I'm asking for a new one, just one you've already done. Let me just publish it as a cover." He never replied to me, but it doesn't hurt to ask. Worst you can do.
Never hurts to ask.
Never heard back.
People always ask us, how did you get these creators to come on your show, your tiny little comic shop and your little show? And we're like, I ask.
Well, it's a blackmail. You have the pictures that people don't want people to see.
That's right.
Remember, you're going to give those back to me, right? Destroy the negatives.
Eventually, okay. Yeah.
Well, see, the way that works is the way we turn the evidence back over is when we see ourselves in one of your upcoming books.
Oh.
Okay. Hey, if you're writing horror, you've got 2 great subjects here. We're both ugly as homemade sin.
Yeah, and I think my head would look nice on a pike somewhere. So
you both remind me when I went and I was a zombie extra on Walking Dead season 1, episodes 1 and 2. The first day I went, they said, you don't need makeup. And that's how I feel about you guys right now.
You don't need makeup.
Well, I was a deep background, so they didn't really get makeup. Then when I went for episode 2, they actually gave me makeup. But episode 1, I was just deep background.
That's
But
hilarious,
can
though.
send me,
That's
yeah,
like the most insulting thing you can say to somebody. Okay, we want you to be a zombie. Okay,
yeah,
you look
they go,
perfect as
you're,
is. Just
you're
do
perfect, just the way you are.
it. Just
that's a little
shamble.
hurtful.
And they go, wait, hold on a minute, let's mess your hair up. Okay, now good.
Yeah, just shamble. You're good.
Well, I'm
That's
not going to be
awesome.
able to pull off the just mess my hair up. So,
but you went on from that. You wrote X-Men.
I did. Well, when I left Caliber and was it the very beginning of '98, I guess. That was right during the distribution wars with Diamond and Capital City and everything. It went from like 13 distributors to 2 to 1 pretty much overnight.
Yep.
Over a 6-month period, whatever it was. That kind of destroyed the company because every
destroyed
distributor
a lot.
every distributor went out of business owed us money. And when Capital City went out of business, they owed us 6 figures. And that pretty much killed us. And so I left Calp at that time. Not that I wanted to. I really, it's the favorite job I've ever had, to be honest. My time, I only spent 1 year on staff at the offices in Michigan. I worked from, obviously from 92, 93 up, but I was only in Michigan for 1 full year. And I really enjoyed my time there. It was a great, Gary Reed, the owner, basically became my best friend. So when he passed 5 or 6 years ago too, that was crushing to me.
Yeah.
Because he also helped me a lot when I was starting Desperado Publishing and stuff. But going back to X-Men, so when I left Caliber, there was some article in a British magazine. Okay, I don't want where it was or anything like that. But Mike Perkins, who was an artist for me at Negative Burned and then on Kilroy is here, who's now a big superstar, who's actually doing art on our Garth Ennis's and our first project with my new company that we're doing, my new imprint, Nice Circle Image. But Mike had sent me this note about, hey, some editor at Marvel was unnamed, saying that Marvel is looking to, recruit from the up and comers in the indie market. And in the article, they mentioned myself, Brian Bendis, David Mack, maybe it was Phil Hess, but I think Phil was already working there though. So I remember me, Bendis, Mack, Andrew Robinson, who I think I was doing Dusty Star with at the time at Image briefly in '97, and maybe 1 or 2 others. I can't remember who they were. And so my little group, which is that group I just named, said, "Hey, anybody know who the editor is that said this?" And nobody seemed to know. And somebody said, "Oh, I think this is editor named Jason Lee, but he got at Marvel. He's in the X-Men office, assistant editor. He's really got a little indie bent to him." And I said, "Okay, fine. I'll reach out. I'll call him." Okay, and just find out. So I called him up, and he says, "No, it wasn't me, but why don't you send me your stuff so I can look at it? I'm intrigued." And I sent him the stuff, and I had done at Caliber and at Image at that point, and because I like your stuff, so let's give you a tryout. I mean, let's see if we can get you some work. And they gave me a Wolverine inventory story to do first, which eventually got published as issue 158. And they liked that enough where they gave me Mania Rex, and they liked that enough they gave me they came in, so we're gonna give you a regular series, and they gave me Cable, and then when they made X-Men Unlimited as part of the X-Men and Uncanny X-Men, we're tied into all the main titles now instead of just being a one-shot standalone stories. They gave me that too. So all of a sudden I went from an inventory story to a miniseries to 2 ongoing series pretty quickly.
And what was at the time one of their absolute tentpole franchises?
Yeah, I know when Cable, because I came on Cable when Rob Liefeld came back.
Yeah.
For the 3 issues we did together. And so both I think Cable and both that and the X-Men Limited, when it became a regular title, both jumped like top 10 selling. I mean, Magneto Rex was top 10. I remember that. And the X-Men Limited and Cable were at least, if not top 10, top 20 titles. So it was fun. I jumped into a group, X-Men editors who I liked and I worked with fine. until they were all fired a few years later. And then my work dried up pretty quickly. But it was fun. It was like being a kid again. I mean, in the 90s, I was basically into a group of Marvel Zombie. You know, when I discovered indie comics in the early 80s with PC and Eclipse and Cerebus and, Forest Comics and other stuff, I became more of a independent comic snob. I no longer want to read Marvel or DC comics. And I remember even in the 90s, I'm going to go pick up, Kevin Smith and Joe Quesada's Daredevil. I hope nobody sees me do it. I'm a little embarrassed to be, buying a Marvel comic because I'm this other guy now. But all of a sudden being invited into the X-Men office, it was like something completely surreal. But at the same time, it became, wow, this is like being a kid again. I get to play with all these toys I grew up with. So I enjoyed it for a few years until I didn't. So
now, when you went from independent comics to Marvel, how did your process as a writer change? Jumping from independent to Marvel, was there even a change?
It was a big difference actually, because as a independent writer, I really don't have an editor. For a few issues of Kilroy, I enlisted Paul Jenkins, who was at the time, I think, writing Hellblazer. Perhaps it was before he became over at Marvel himself.
Yep.
I met Paul. He was actually my very first editor. I mean, I met Paul in 1991. When he was the editor at Tundra.
Yep.
And because Paul had picked up Kilroy, the book I ended up at Caliber with, he liked it enough that he was trying to, set it up with Tundra, which at the time, if you don't remember Tundra, it was Kevin Eastman's company.
Yep.
And he started up, had every great creator in the world working for him. And the idea that I was almost there was pretty nice. And then Tundra kind of, went down quickly.
Unfortunately.
Yeah. Paul left there. But then I met Paul later, and he started. I met him. I saw him. I think elevator at San Diego Comic Con. He goes, "Yeah, I'm writing Hellblazer." And I said, "What? You're a writer?" And he's actually a pretty good writer. It turns out.
It's funny how that turned out, because we had him on the show earlier this year, and that was just absolutely luck of the draw kind of thing that he got that book, and the way that all worked out was bizarre. But he was great on it. Yeah,
he edits. I let him be my editor for a few issues of Kilroy, and actually, a few things he taught me there or pointed out to me, I still use today. I said, okay, it was worth being friends with Paul for a little bit. No, actually, I'm still friends with Paul. Now, we actually shared studio space for several years here in Atlanta until a few years back. It was a lot of fun. Me, him, and Brian Stelfreeze had a studio.
Man, I could just imagine. Yeah. I would love to be a fly on the wall in that. Talk about 3 juggernauts. That's amazing.
Well, and also because it was a movie studio, so movies were being made left and right there. I mean, we'll be sitting here in our offices, and then here's Tom Cruise right across the aisle from us, practicing his lines. And we're like, I'll be sitting in Selfie's office. Oh wait, there's Tom's practicing his lines again, and we go because he screamed everything as he practiced. Or we walk by and here's The Rock walking by. I was on a golf cart running the back lot at one point, and here's another golf cart coming towards me. And my little boy at the time, he was 11, he's not that now, he's 18. But as we're driving, the other cart comes past us, and the guy in the car waves, and my boy goes, "That was The Rock." I go, "Yeah, that was The Rock. He waved at me." He goes, "Yeah, he waved at you." So it was always kind of fun to see stuff like that around there. You never knew what you're going to see each day. So I do miss those days too. I just left that studio. Back in, I think I moved out officially at the end of March. I was there for 9 years.
So that's where you were when you were with Aftershock?
Right. Yeah, I moved in there right when we started Aftershock. Paul brought me in. He was helping develop the studio with some big shots, and then I brought Stelfreeze in there, so we were all there. Paul left probably I think he was probably there for 5 years. Stelfreeze left about a year later, maybe longer, and then I stayed the whole throughout. We actually had the Aftershocks warehouse was there until I left there. Then we closed the warehouse down and I moved out.
I don't know who was behind the logo for Aftershock or the way that you guys used it, but whoever it was a genius. I loved that logo. I loved the way that you used it. I loved you did the one for Canada Day or whatever, where you put the maple leaf in there. All of that. It was just fantastic. Instantly recognizable. The colors jumped off the page at you. It was great. So I don't know who was responsible for that.
I'm pretty sure
but that was awesome.
Richard Starking's Comic Craft designed the logo. I'm pretty sure also all the stuff you're talking about. Steve Rotterdam, who was a VP of Sales and Marketing there, is one who was doing all that little creativity. I mean, I don't know for a fact that he was doing it himself. He might have been his idea. He had somebody on staff fix it for him. I just showed up. I didn't know who was doing what.
But whoever it was really good. But you, in addition to like overseeing a lot of the books that came out of Aftershock, you also wrote some like Black Eyed Kids and
Black Eyed Kids. The only thing I really wrote. I wrote a couple of short stories in the Shock anthologies.
Right.
But Black Eyed Kids, we did 15 issues of it, and I quit because how can I say this? I was asked to quit it. So the focus just on the more, not worry about being a creator and just focus on the business side of things.
Interesting.
Which I wasn't too thrilled about it personally. I'm a creator. I've always been both. I mean, I'd much rather just be a writer. But unfortunately, I almost say unfortunately. Fortunately, I have 6 wonderful children and a wife and stuff like that in the house, a mortgage. So I have to pay the bills and support my extremely large family. So I always stay on the business side of things because that's the steady income.
Mm-hmm.
And I would always do the evenings and the weekends to do the creative because that's what I want to do.
Yeah.
So as long as when I had the creative outlet, no matter if I had a day job, heck, when I was writing X-Men, I was a full-time manager at Barnes & Noble. So I would write the X-Men at night. And sometimes they'll call me up, hey, this writer has flaked out a little bit and we need a script out. Because doing a Marvel style, you do the plot, you do the art, and then you do the script.
Yep.
And so he doesn't have time to do the script, so can you script it for us? And by tomorrow? I said, well, I get off work at midnight. I'll go home and write overnight. And I would do stuff like that.
That'll wear you out fast.
It would. And then I started Desperate Publishing after I left Marvel. And again, I was full-time. I think at that point I was a full-time manager at Borders Books and Music. And then transitioned to being a full-time manager for Apple Store for 9 months. But so I would go do my shift. And this is when I was a part of Gaijin Studios with Stella Freeze and Adam Hughes and Cully Hamner and that group.
And Cully's from Huntsville.
Yeah, that's right. Cully is from Huntsville.
Yeah.
No wonder he's not allowed back there.
It's so true. They have his picture up at all of the local police precincts, and if he comes into town, they see him. They get the pole, the tar, and the feathers, and they run him out.
It's funny. Cully's a good guy. I just saw him this past weekend too. I do miss the group. Being around, I miss being in the Gaijin Studios. It was a lot of fun.
I will say, from the outside looking in, Gaijin Studios was this mythical place of awesomeness. These incredible creators, all centered right there, and you got Brian Stelfreeze and Tony Harris, and you got all these guys. And from the outside, we all around here, we just thought, man, I just want to like peek behind the curtain at that place. It's got to be just covered in awesomeness.
That was fun. It was sometimes hard to get work done because everybody's chit chatting with each other.
I believe that.
Or it's like, oh, hey, there's this cool show on TV. Come over. We used to have. They had a TV room at one of the studios, so we would go in there watch the show together and stuff. But it was fun. Sometimes I would I had to tell myself, hey, can you go close the door between my side and their side real quick so I can get some work done? Because they'll be able to have these in-depth discussions.
Now, one of the stories you had in one of the Shock anthologies was actually set here in Huntsville.
Huntsville, that's right. The Children's
Playground, right?
Yeah, yes, it was. And I came there and actually took photos of it for my artist who lived in Poland. So he didn't know what it looked like. And I posed for it. I had my daughter pose for it. And we had a little paranormal experience ourselves while we were there doing the photo shoot.
I didn't know that. Did you?
Yeah, actually. So I think the legends. Have you looked into the legend at all?
Oh, I live in town. You got to.
Yeah. I used to hang out there when I was a teenager.
Uh-huh.
So yeah,
Okay.
Well,
Well,
that was also a prerequisite for teenagers in this
so
town
I didn't
too.
hear the children's voices or anything like that. Some people hear, but no things that I've heard or read at least. It's like light orbs or the swing sets moving and stuff like that. So I'm sitting there and I get up on the little jungle gym so I can get a shot down at the swing set. So I have my daughter set the swing set, and as I'm doing that, I'm just doing it on my phone, So I'm doing this on my phone like this, I say, hey, and I I click and I go, oh, that was weird. And she goes, what was weird? I said, don't worry about it. Just sit there. Let me do it again. So I click and I go, one more time. Okay, click. And I get down there. She goes, what was weird? And so I get down there and said, well, I'm going to show you something. So I didn't see this with the naked eye, but on my camera, when I was looking through the screen, as I'm getting ready to click, I see this light go across my camera back and forth, right across my camera. So I caught it on camera, but I didn't see it with my naked eye. And so it's like a little light orb. And I immediately sent it to Aaron Douglas, actor from Battlestar Galactica, if you ever saw that.
Oh, yeah.
A good friend of mine. He's friends, but he's also friends with the guys who do the Ghost Hunters.
Yeah.
So I said, hey, look what I just saw, because he's also a big supernatural, ghost hunting kind of guy. He has some great ghost stories to tell you what happened to him. You should get him on your show. He actually did a book.
To.
He did a book with Mark Verheyen at Dark Horse not too long ago. Borealis, I think it was called.
Yeah, I remember Borealis. That was good.
Borealis, that's it. Yeah, and then he also at first I got him to writing comics. He did a story issue 1 and 2, volume 1 and 2 of Shock, and he also did a one shot with me, 10 Days to Death, 10 Years to Death, that we put out through Aftershock. That was his first full length story by himself as a writer.
Yeah, shoot me his contact info. I'll reach out to him.
Yeah, I could hook you guys up. Don't worry about it. He's a great guy and a great storyteller. But anyway, so I said to him, he goes, "Oh my God, that's a light orb." And yes, it is. So I show it to Sarah, and she's like, "Spooky," And she goes, "I want to tell you, when you said that was weird, I swear the swing next to me moved, did like a little moving back and forth." And I was like, "Oh, really?" The swing right here, as I sat down on it. And then I was okay. Now I want you to take pictures of me posing, and I'm sitting on the swing, and I'm doing the pose I want my artist to draw. Cause I have it in my script, and I'm like, "Hey, children, I'm on your swing set. There's a lot more seats here."
Them.
Yeah, I was like, "Oh, come sit, some swing with me," and my daughter's going, "Shut up."
She's seen enough movies. She knows.
If you looked up too that night too, it was right through the woods that you can see out to the trees above us, around us. There's a full moon too, so it was great ambiance. It was awesome.
Well, I can tell you for a fact that between the years 87 and about toward the end of 89, the only lights that I ever saw there was the lights from the cops running us off late at night.
Oh, I bet. It says you're not allowed down there. We did it anyway. Yeah.
Well, there used to be like where you go just past the cemetery, then you got the turn in on the left.
Mm-hmm.
There used to be a house that sat right there.
Yep.
And the people that lived there absolutely hated when the car lights would come through their window. Right. So the second a car made that left-hand turn, they were on the phone with the police department. I mean, just second.
Okay. Well, I parked in the cemetery itself. There was like a little brick wall there with a little wall. I parked right there and walked down. I didn't know where it was. I couldn't find the graveyard, the playground.
It does take a minute if you don't know where to go.
It was total darkness. So I'm walking through this. I said, maybe it's down there. And my daughter goes, you can go look. And so I go down there with my phone. I'm just walking down with my light on my phone. And I go down and go up. And I said, because I remember I looked online and there was a picnic pavilion right next to the playground. And I walked up in the dark. Oh, wait, there's a picnic pavilion. And I looked down and there's the stairs to the playground. And I could see the swing set down. So I have to admit, that was pretty spooky. Because the ambiance was building up to it, and the ambiance and the darkness and the full moon. And I couldn't see 2 feet in front of me. It was great.
So the backstory, and hopefully it'll make it a little bit creepier for you. I want to say it was like the 50s or 60s.
Right.
On the, you had the playground and everything, and then you got like that rock wall right behind it.
Right, right.
On the other side of that, 100 years ago, it feels like there used to be a rock quarry there.
Okay.
And they found legit bones there, and they think it might have been a dumping ground for a serial killer at one point.
Yeah.
And that's where a lot of that come from. But honestly, Maple Hill Cemetery is creepier, and there's tons more stories about that place than there ever was about Dead Children's Playground.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah,
my wife is working on a book, and she wanted some ambiance stuff, and she and her friend that she's collaborating with went to the cemetery, and they happened upon a couple of local historians who were preparing to do a walkthrough of the cemetery with a group. And they got to talking, and they said, well, this is what we're doing if you guys want to tag along. And they're like, yeah, absolutely. So they went through some of the graves, and some of the graves of like big names in the city, like the guy who, if you're local, you'll know Burritt on the mountain, the guy that owned this estate up on Montesano Mountain.
Okay.
That dude was a total creeper, and there are bodies. Like he had a little mausoleum here at the cemetery.
Okay.
And he would fancied himself like a medical professional or whatever. He would do medical things that didn't go very well, and he would just take the bodies down and put them in his mausoleum.
Wow.
And stuff like that. They're like, we found so many, like, who are these people? And it took them a while to piece things together. But there's a lot of Civil War Confederate soldiers and family members and things buried there.
There's a Confederate cemetery right up the street from me here. It's supposed to be haunted too.
Yeah.
And I'm right across the street. I don't know if you've ever heard of Pickett's Mill.
Yeah.
That's across the street. I mean, basically a mile down the road from me. I go hiking there sometimes.
Oh wow.
And it's supposed to be haunted too. So I keep.
See, my favorite one about Maple Hill Cemetery, and my sister's 13 years older than me, so this has been going on, and she used to do it when she was younger. There is one particular mausoleum that's in Maple Hill Cemetery that if you pull up to it at night, you turn your lights off and then you turn them on, and on the metal door to it, I've seen it with my own two eyes. I know tons of people that's seen it. It is the silhouette of what looks like a headless angel on the door.
I've got to see this.
And the urban legend was that it was called the Death Angel. If you saw its head, you were supposed to die within 7 days.
Oh, it's like the ring.
They even figured out, they changed the door out several times to try to keep kids from going up there.
Uh-huh.
But they finally figured out it was the oxidation on the door. And what was causing it was the overhang of the mausoleum, the way the rain would come into it.
Oh, okay.
And it was
you just ruined it for me. I was having fun with this until just now.
Well, that right there, I think they actually ended up doing a different type of paint at one point to try to stop it from doing that. But I mean, I remember seeing it when I was like 16. One of our big things when we were younger was we would try to park over on California and sneak across the cemetery into Dead Children's Playground. Well, if we could pull that off, we were there, till the sun come up sometimes. It was a blast.
It's the largest cemetery in Alabama.
Yep.
So.
Yep. And it's fun. And the fact that there's a playground right there is just so disturbing.
It's so fascinating to me.
It really is. But it's fantastic. So we got a lot of history here. I do have one question I want to ask you before we jump into talking about your new project that's coming up. And because I always think, I'm sure you've repeated your origin story in comics 10 million times. And it's good for people to hear it. But a question I don't know if you've ever been asked or not. What was your most bizarre experience at a convention?
At a convention?
Weirdest interaction you ever had with a fan or with an attendee? What
Okay,
the
it's
most
two.
bizarre thing that sticks in your head?
I can think
this
of
can go
two.
really bad, really fast.
Two interactions, but funny, they don't happen to me personally. They happen to the person I'm with. Okay, so
That's even
one time,
better.
very early Dragon Con, so it'd been like 93, we'll say. Okay, um, I went there with my brother Jim. We're sitting together, and this girl comes up and is talking to us, and she's interested in the comics, blah blah blah, right? And then she kind of leans into Jim like she's going to give him a kiss on the cheek or something, and she bit his ear. And then she comes back and goes, "You like that?" We're like, "Well, okay then."
Oh my Lord!
That was one, and the other one, I was at a little show in Detroit with to one side of me is P. Craig Russell, legendary creator. The other side of me is Dave Sim. Okay, and we're at this table, these all next to each other, these little small tables, and this fan comes up and starts talking to Craig, and wants to buy something. He goes, "How much for your sock?" He goes, "What?" He goes, "The sock. You mean the sock I'm wearing?" He goes, "Yeah. How much for it?" And me and Dave Sim were just looking at each other. We're just like, "Okay, where is this going?" He goes, "I want to buy your sock."
Yeah, nowhere good.
He goes, "I'll give you $30 for it." Whatever the price was. It was say it's $30, okay. And Craig's like looking at us, and me and Dave are just busting out laughing. I mean, this is the most weird thing I think I've ever seen. And he goes, "Should I sell my sock?" I go, "You for $30, you can buy another pair of socks, can't you?" So it might have been 50, but it was stupid. And so he takes his sock off. He goes, "Would you sign it?" So I wish I had a iPhone at this point. I guess it's pre-iPhones. It definitely was pre-iPhones, and because I would have been videotaping that sucker and talking about it every day of my life since then, and showing it to every person I walk by in the street. Because Craig pulls his sock off, he signs it, takes the cash to the guy, and the guy walks away. And we're like, that is the weirdest request.
That had to have been a dare or something.
I don't know.
I hope so, because otherwise it's just creepy.
I want to say the guy just picked this up, went, just had a look on his face, but he didn't that I remember. But that would have been even better.
Lord.
You know.
Hey, I mean, I now have a question I can ask that will super creep out anybody.
Yeah, really.
Walk up to somebody at the grocery store. "Hey, lady, how much for your sock?"
That's right.
Like, what? You go to jail for that.
Exactly. That was just
Wow.
that was just hilarious. I've remembered ever since.
Oh yeah, how do you forget that? That's awesome. Oh my Lord, that's funny. Wow. So I guess you've got a comic coming up here shortly. It's a one shot from Image, and its FOC is this week. It's this Monday.
This week.
So this is the last chance for people to get in and order for it.
Increase that order or ask for it.
Right. And I want to show folks.
Oh yeah.
That's the main cover.
Brian Bolin. A lot of people in America would say Bolin, but it's actually pronounced Bolin.
I appreciate you telling me that because I didn't know. I've always called him Brian Bolin.
I did too until he corrected me.
But that is an unmistakable Brian Bolin art. I mean, you see it, you instantly know who it is.
Yeah, he's my favorite all-time artist. So it's a joy just be friends with him, and have him do a cover for me like that. He actually had. I wish I had it with me, but he did a portrait of my wife for her birthday one year. Years ago. So I have that as a treasure, and I still have the two covers he did for me for Kilroy back in the day. I own both of those, so I'll never let those go.
Speaking of Kilroy, I have to say it was a really nice surprise to see Kilroy in color.
Yeah, I thought it'd be something different. Yeah.
In the back of this book, it's been a long time since I've read the Kilroy.
Yeah, it's been a long time since I've written Kilroy. I think 98 might have been the last book that came out issue.
Yeah, but that was fantastic. What a great story.
I thought about bringing it back.
A little bit about what the book is.
Voice in my head is obviously stories from the minute mind. 4 years ago, when I had my second stroke, without
You
insurance.
should really stop that. I do
I
not approve
know,
of
I
it.
know. Hey, I'm addicted. Okay, I have an addictive personality, and so I didn't have insurance at the time either.
Oh
Um,
Lord.
yeah, either time. And so some of my friends said, wanted to help me out. And so we came up with that idea. I'll do this anthology. I'll write short stories for friends of mine to draw. And then a whole bunch of friends, gave me covers, variant covers to use. And unfortunately, most of them weren't even used for this book. I didn't really only use a few of them, honestly. And I'll get to that in a second. But so I wrote 4 different short stories, original short stories. Actually, I wrote 5, and the reason the Kilroy story is in there, actually, I wrote a story for Cliff Richard um, called "Dirty Deeds." That about a year ago, Eric Stevenson, the Image, sent me a note, said, "Hey, do you have a 5-page or 6-page, whichever it was, short story? We have the 12th issue of the Image anthology that was coming out had a opening. I guess somebody dropped out." And want to know if I had anything I could fill it with. And I actually already had the story completely done, drawn, lettered, and colored, and everything. And I said, well, I have this story. So I took it out of here and I put it in the Image anthology for them and got that out last year. So I had the back stock. I said, well, I'll put Kilroy into this book. But anyway, so the book was made to help me raise money for my medical bills originally. I was going to do it as a Kickstarter. But as time passed, and it took me 4 years to get this book done, partially, my fault, partially my situation I was in, and partially because some people who volunteer to do stuff don't always follow through with doing the stuff they volunteer for. So it took me this long to get it done. I'll just put it that way. And then I decided instead of going Kickstarter, because I'm coming back out as a writer again. Once I left Aftershock back in the first of the year, I'm going to come back to do a lot more writing because that's my first love. That's what I love doing more than anything. And the Nine Circle stuff, yeah, I'm helping organize that company and stuff too. But I'm also writing there, and it's just a group of me and my friends get together and take turns every month doing a new story. But getting back to Forces in My Head, so it's all short stories I wrote for this anthology by my good buddies and friends who did fantastic work. I think it's amazing work on the stories they worked on. And I'm very, very proud of the book. And I'm very proud and thankful for all my friends who gave me the Brian Bond covers and the interior art and the colors and the letters inside of it as well. And doing it as a favor to me for the most part. And yeah, and I think some of the stories, and I think I'll spin off to do other stuff with. I mean, Wando and I are talking to Ari about doing outside the box of the series. Michael Gatiss already talked to me. He wouldn't mind playing this world more that we played in the story we did.
That's that Wando page I was telling you about.
Oh yeah, okay.
Now, from a writer's
Just
standpoint,
phenomenal.
and I mean, I'm a big horror fan. I've always been a big horror fan.
Me too. Yeah.
From a writer's standpoint, when it comes to comic books, strictly from from your point of view, do you feel that horror works better as short stories or long form?
Honestly, I think it works both ways. It's easy to do a horror short story, in my mind. It's easy to do a horror short story. That's why I gravitate more towards it now recently. When I started doing Black Eyed Kids, it was really the first horror book I ever did. And I realized, I really like this. I can really get into this. And so everything I've been doing since it's been horror. Voice in My Head has a couple of non-horror type stuff in it. But I like doing horror because as a publisher, like say somebody, Barnes Noble buyer, do horror, I can sell it all day long. As a film and TV, horror is cheap to make and very profitable. If you look, I remember seeing something like from 2015 talking about the top 20 or top 10 highest, not grossing films, but profitable films of that year. Every single one was a horror movie. $8 million budget, $120 million return. $12 million budget, $200 million return, et cetera, et cetera. And so, as comics are, I only care about making comics. Okay, film and TV is great. Hey, Aftershock, they have film and TV division, a lot of stuff set up there. I've had my Curious Here series option 3 different times, and I've had it with Akiva Goldsmith that we do our pictures. I've had it with Mandalay Pictures. That's where I met Lee Kramer, one of my partners in Aftershock. I had it with Michael Bay, and so it got optioned several different times. Never got made, but so I don't really. It's nice if that happens. Hey, I'm like anybody else. I like to have a movie, but I don't. That's not what drives me. What drives me is making comics. So that's what we're trying to do here with Ninth Circle. That's what I'm trying to do here with my stuff I'm doing now. I'm doing with voices in my head. It's the first thing I'm doing. And then I have project I'm doing with Butch Guys or at Ninth Circle. Then I have a project I'm doing with Marcel Fruzen, also at Image, which would be kind of a period action horror type series. I know Wando and I talking about doing Outside the Box as a series. I just talking with Nagi Miranda, who did We Live at Aftershock with us, and I just wrote a first issue script for a project we might be doing together. So I'm just going back into writing a lot more, and because that's where I'd rather be. Everything else pays the bills. This pays my dreams.
Now, there was a particular book from Aftershock that I fell in love with it, and I actually missed that book. What do you know if anything will ever come of Lost City Explorers?
Well, I got set up as a film once or twice, or it didn't happen. But I'm trying to remember, was it Universal maybe had it at one point? Don't quote me on that. I don't remember. I have to look at my own notes.
Yeah.
But it depends. No, Abstract's going through bankruptcy court. They're still they're still around. They're just not publishing right now. And I think it's getting I haven't had much communication with them since I left. But what I've heard is that it might be getting close, that they can come out of it. We'll see what happens there. So best of luck to them. And because if they come back, all these wonderful titles that they publish can also have a life again.
So if they do shut down, can those creators not take those titles somewhere else if there's a demand for them?
That's really nothing I should talk about or actually even know the answer to be honest. I don't know what really happened because hey, I have my own project there. So ideally at some point I would love to have my property to do what I want to with it, but right now I can't.
Gotcha.
Daniel asks, when something's optioned, is it for a set amount of time or can it be shopped around?
It's a certain amount of time. So if you get an option, it can be, we have an 18-month option to make something happen, or we have a 3-year option, whatever it happens to be. And they pay a certain amount to keep that title with them exclusively to try to develop it. And then if they get to a point where after the option's over, say it's 2 years, and they're close, they can re-option it for another 2 years for another payment. So I know some creators can make a living just getting options without ever getting something made.
I can see how you could. But Voices in My Head, again, I want to show this picture off because this cover is just gorgeous. And this cover is essentially what happens in the first story in the book. And the artwork for that story is just utter perfection.
Yeah, it's by Andrew Robinson, who is my longtime collaborator. Again, cover artist for Mega Bear #1 when he was still a student at Savannah School of Art and Design. He did that story. He also was my Dusty Star, cohort. We did that at Image a couple of times. We did Gen 13 together. Whenever I want a story that has humor in it, which is how I really horror and humor are my two wheelhouses. Josh, you might have met me. I'm a very sarcastic, never serious person. So if you meet me, I might be a little annoying sometimes because I can never say something seriously. But if you write what you know, and like when I was doing Dust Star, I did Gen 13, and when I did this story with Andrew, it's my personality coming out. And I would write that if I had the right artist for it. And Andrew has really been the only artist I've ever worked with who could do the facial expressions, to do the mood setting. Brian Ballin would be wonderful for that, but he won't do it with me.
Right.
Matter of fact, the story in the Voice from My Head that Andrew drew was actually I didn't even inspired buy that cover. When he sent the cover to me, the story didn't exist yet. And so when I saw the cover, I said, Brian, this is a beautiful cover. I said, honestly, it's kind of inspired me to write this little short story. And I wrote this little 3-page short story. And I sent it to him. And I said, I would really love to get you to draw it, you know. And he goes, oh, well, yeah, that's a nice story. I like it. No, I won't draw it, but feel free to have somebody else do it. So that's how that story came about. I wrote it, trying to write in Brian's, wheelhouse too. And the only person that came out that really, Andrew did such a wonderful job. I mean, it was like it was written for him.
It really is. It feels like that. It looks like that. And that story, more than just about any I've ever seen in any comic format before, covers so much ground so quickly, and yet it doesn't feel rushed at all. It just very matter-of-factly steps through all these things, and it's so perfectly tuned to that character and her whole way of seeing the world and the way the world sees her. And the depiction, so it's, well, I don't want to give too much of it away, but at one point in the story, there is a depiction of an angel.
Right.
Which is like one of the rare, like, close to biblically accurate portrayal of an angel, right? All those eyeballs and everything, it's awesome looking, and yet it's creepy as all get out. And the whole story, and frankly, all the stories in here to me, they all are horror stories, and yet none of them are horror stories. It's this interesting mix where they're both and neither at the same time. And I know that because I got to read ahead of the book, so I could talk about it intelligently and at least appear to, rather than like an idiot. But you've got one story in there, the one with Wando, that
outside the box, yeah.
Yeah, the rest of them are very like they have a beginning, they have a middle, they have an end, and that one does too. But that one has this very tantalizing ending that
setup.
Says, "I need to know more." And
exactly.
I told Joe when I read it, Alan, I said, "This is the kind of book Alan's going to finish that story and throw the book across the room because he needs to know more and he needs it right now."
Oh, I've been known to do that a time or two.
That's what he told me.
I mean, I cannot think of his name right now to save my life, but he wrote Black Tape.
Dan Panosian.
Dan,
yeah.
Have you read Black Tape?
I have not. I should though, because you should read the messages me and Dan sent back to each other. We are hilariously.
Well, next time you talk to him, tell him that I am still pissed off that book was not released all at the same time, and I had to wait a month for each issue. I needed it all right then, and I need a sequel to it, and I need it fast.
I'll tell him he's one of my favorite people. He's such a good guy.
We've been trying to get him to come on the show for a while, but no luck.
Really?
Yeah, we hadn't been able to get a hold of him.
I'll tell him.
It's hard to find some of these guys sometimes.
Well, he knows about everybody.
Well, he's all over the place doing stuff for people. But Black Tape, if you go back and watch episodes of this show where we were talking about it every month as it came out, that book got a lot of love from us. That was
okay. Is that was that AWA?
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah. 4 issues of just phenomenal stuff. Horror mixed with music, and it was great.
It literally, the look, the feel, and the story felt like some type of hybrid between a 70s and 80s horror movie.
Oh, good.
I mean, it was perfect on every. I loved that book. That book was so much fun.
Now I have to go read it.
Oh, you definitely need to read that one. And if you want to read a book that kind of bridges the gap between action and adventure and comedy a little bit and a little bit of horror, It's another AWA book. It's like the love child of Cully Hamner of Red, if you remember Red.
Oh, I just heard Love Child with Scully Hammer. It kind of made me have a
Oh, sorry, I didn't mean for you to have a visual. I didn't mean for you to have a visual. I'm sorry. It's like the bizarre mashup of Red and John Wick.
All right.
It's this old dude, and it's phenomenal. It's a great story. That one and Black Tape, we shoot to people a lot. When they come in, like, I don't know what I'm looking for. I don't know anything about comics. And we say, what kind of movie do you like? And I like this, I like that. We'll push those to those people, and they inevitably come back. You got anything else that's like this?
I'll look for it. I have some AWA graphic novels series that Axel gave me I haven't looked at yet. So I'll look up and see if I have that one.
Yeah, it's they've put out some really great stuff.
Yeah, and they haven't put anything out in a while.
No, Red Light, I think, was the last book that they had.
From my understanding, they're doing a lot more crowdfunding stuff. They just did a Kickstarter with who's that wrestler?
Danhauser or whatever.
A female wrestler. I can't think of her
Ronda
name.
Rousey.
Yeah,
Yep.
that's it. That was crowdfunding recently. I don't know what it ended up at. And maybe they just announced something else. I can't remember.
Yeah, I got one of the emails from them, and I want to say it was 100% funded.
Yeah, it was.
Yeah.
I don't know where it ended. I kind of like keep track sometimes. I like to go back and look and see where things end.
Now, with independent comics, do you think that crowdfunding is going to be like a way of the future? Because we're starting to see like more and more independent comics crowdfunded now.
Well, I think crowdfunding right now is like, say, people of my generation, or past me, like say a Jim Starlin. I'm thinking, or Bill Latucci, who's my generation. I'm thinking because the way the market is, it's always I don't want to say you're aged out, but aged out, or you're not new anymore. It's make room, get out the old and get the new in. So people like us, or Jim, they've gone off crowdfunding because that's where the audience is now. Because their audience aren't really buying the new Marvel and the new DCs anymore. They'll support the people they grew up with. So if Jim Starlin says I'm going to do a Kickstarter, his audience will follow him to Kickstarter and buy that. He won't be getting work at Marvel DC generally because it's not the target audience anymore that he represents. So that's the way I think the older crowd, or the aging crowd, or like myself, eventually will make our way there, because that's where our audience is, because our audience is not buying normal regular comics anymore.
That's the weirdest thing to me. And there's this weird cycle that happens where creators kind of get shoved out the door for no reason that is discernible to me. I don't understand it. Kind of like you said, these editors went away and new editors came in, and so your work dried up.
That's it. Is what happens.
Nothing to do with you. Just
they want their people. They don't want what's left over. They want to make their voice and their name with their group. And so that's what happened, unfortunately. So me coming back now as a writer, and that's why I didn't go Kickstarter with voices in my head. I decided to just go with Image, because I want to come back into this marketplace.
Yeah,
I want to come, because I haven't been out that long. I mean, I was when I was doing Black Eyed Kids, and I got some nice buzz at Black Eyed Kids. I'm not saying we sold a ton of copies or anything, but the trades, I'll tell you the trades were always the top 5 seller for us.
Yeah.
And but once I stopped doing the single issues, the trades died off, because I didn't have anybody to push it to the
pretty much been my experience with comics in general. Is as long as there are the periodicals, the monthly issues, trades keep going. There's the rare exceptions, obviously, things like Watchmen,
like a Watchmen
or
the Preacher or something like that. A true classic will sell no matter what.
But look at a book like Fables, right? When Fables was coming out, Fables was huge. It was huge. We sold the ever-loving heck out of it, and we sold the trades, just boom, 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 boom. But when it fades from the public consciousness because it's over, eventually the trade sales dry up too.
Right. Right.
And it's weird because it shouldn't. It was a long, completed series. It's all out there, and it's excellent comic book storytelling with great art. And now people are like, what is Fables? I don't get it. What is that?
Exactly. It's 20 years ago, uh, or longer. I don't know when the Fables come out. No, 20.
About 20, yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, so I'm coming. I decided to make my effort in the direct market. With the retailers that I grew up with and support and friendly with. I want to be in comic shops. I don't want to
As
be
a retailer, I greatly appreciate that, by the way.
I don't want to be a mail order creator yet.
Yeah, see, I mean, as a consumer, I want the experience of being able to walk into a comic book shop and pick that book up off the shelf.
Yeah, and as an egotistical writer like myself, I do want the same thing.
Matt Posey, I saw you just walked in, came in. I know you're going to want this book. This book is fantastic.
It's the best thing ever, honestly. It's
yeah, but I mean, to me, it's it's. And I mean, y'all, we're all roughly the same age, so y'all are going to understand this comment. It's like when you went to the video store on a Friday night. You just didn't know what they were going to have, and then you would run across something. You'd be like, "Oh, that looks cool," and you'd get excited.
Yeah,
that's why I mean, I've got nothing against crowdfunding. I mean, if it's something that I know that Josh is going to back at the retailer level, 9 times out of 10, I don't do the crowdfunding. I buy it through the store.
Yeah. I do the crowdfunding because I want to help my friends.
Yeah,
I know what it's like, not being able to get work, and hey, just because you're not the in guy at Marvel anymore doesn't mean you don't have a family to feed, you don't have a mortgage to pay, you don't need to put food on the table, so you have to find money, way to make money, and that's how you can keep doing what you love and what your fans love you to do. If crowdfunding is the way to go, then more power to them. I will support my friends who are doing crowdfunding. So I want to support them because one day I want them to support me too.
Yeah,
and I'm not.
And you look at a guy like Brian Polito; he has maximized what you can do with crowdfunding.
Yeah, I mean, some of the guys, Jimmy Palmiotti, is doing a lot of crowdfunding stuff. I go to them all the time and say, hey, I'm thinking about doing this. What do you think? I mean, it was this close to me going crowdfunding with this project, but I want to be in the comic shop, because I'm trying to rebuild my writing career. Because again, that's why I broke in wanted to be. Well, actually, I want to be an artist, but let's not go back there. But then I would say I'll be a writer instead. It's just I love comics and I love walking in the stores. I love to know having something out every month, and I love to people see it and people can get it easily without having to order something. Now, I'm going to go back and do I don't know if you remember, I used to do a lot of art books when I was doing Desperate Publishing. And I went to Eisner for one, for the Brian Ballin one, the Craig Russell one, got an Eisner nomination. But I did Tim Bradstreet, Tony Harris, Dave Dorman, Jim Sterling, Amanda Connor, Jeffrey Jones, George Perez. Did I say Tim Bradstreet? Joe Jusko?
Didn't say Joe yet.
So I did 10 of them, okay? And they all made money, but didn't make a lot of money. And I'm looking at people doing art books now with the same quality creators I was working with, making $100,000, $200,000, $300,000 on an art book. I'm thinking, why wasn't that there when I was doing them? Because if they were, I would be not having to worry about how I'm paying my bills. I wouldn't be worried about, oh my gosh, my tax bill's coming due. What am I going to do about it? So I'm going to do art books again. I've already lined up 4 or 5 of them, and I'm probably going to do them crowdfunding, just because that's where the money is for that type of project. I'm not saying I've also talked to Diamond, say, hey, I might open Desperado back up again at Diamond and do like a variant edition for Diamond. Say if I'm doing a Tony Harris one at crowdfunding, I might say here's a different cover that you only get through Diamond, to make it kind of like a variant, exclusive for Diamond,
Yeah.
So I might do that. So that way I try to still keep it into the stores while hopefully making, some money to pay bills and stuff like that with the crowdfunding.
That's fantastic. I think we all have this experience. You walk into a Barnes and Noble, you walk into a comic shop, wherever, a record store, whatever the case may be, kind of like you were talking about, Alan. You walk in, you wander, you see things that inspire you, that capture your imagination. You got to grab that and check out, and read the back of it and say, what's going on here? That's just an experience that you cannot replicate online. You can go to Amazon all you want, but you got to type in the title of a book or the genre of a book and then scroll through these things, and it's not the same. It just doesn't hit your brain the same way. So putting things front and center in a comic book shop, I think, is it's just a visceral experience that we as humans gravitate toward, generally speaking.
Yeah, I love visiting comic shops. I love to do signings. I love to come in and talk to your customers and talk to you. And if you don't want to talk to me very often, buy my book or I'll come to your shop. That's what my new slogan is.
Well, I was talking with Jim Calafiore a while back.
Oh yeah, Jim.
And he said it was the funniest thing. He walked into a comic book shop and he asked them if they had any of his books. And the guy's like, who are you? Who is this guy you're asking about? And he goes, well, hang on just a minute. Let me look around. And he looks around. He comes back and goes, well, you've got my books right here, 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 here. And the guy's like, really? And you're like, come on, man. He goes, that was the most like level setting, grounding thing that ever happened to me in my life, was in a comic book store. They have my work there and have no idea who I am.
Yeah.
And I said, I get it if they don't recognize my face, because it's not like I'm a household name TV star or something.
Right.
But you would think a comic book shop, because Jim Calafiore is a pretty unique name. I mean, it's not like there's a ton of those running around, right? But yeah, he goes, that really grounded me there. That told me exactly where I stood.
Yeah, I'm always surprised when somebody knows who I am, to be honest.
Well, now, hang on a second.
You were Superman. You were the model for Superman.
Right. Action Comics number 900, Adam Hughes.
Look it up, Alan. Pull that up.
I mean, now wait a minute.
Adam Hughes variant covered. Action
You
Comics
did
900.
a signing at Haven a few years ago. How long ago was that? And I believe I was probably the first person up there to get you to sign Black Eyed Children. So don't do the people don't know who I am. I don't want to hear that shit.
Well, I appreciate that. You must be part of my family. I have a lot of relatives. My mom's one of 13 kids. My dad's one of 8.
Holy smokes!
I have lots of relatives. I don't even know who they are.
Your family reunions must be massive.
That's why I don't go to them.
Well, you don't recognize anybody. I will say I'm one of 5 kids. My dad was one of 3. His first cousins, there were 5 or 6 of them. And you just we would go to these family reunions, and all the people my dad's generation and older, there were so many of them. And I couldn't keep any of them straight. I'm like, I have no idea who these people are. And they're pinching me on the cheek and telling me they remember when I was knee-high to a short frog. And I'm like, who are these people?
Oh, there you go.
Is this the one we're talking about?
Yeah, if you zoom in, you can see that's my face.
And it's bizarre because it's 100% true. Because you're like, there is no way. And yet it is.
I didn't even know he did that. I remember posing for it, but I didn't know I was posing for. So I was at Gaijin Studios, and Adam was there preparing to do this painting, and I happened to be walking by. It was, hey, Joe, and they look at me and go, hey, look, yeah, he could do it. He's even got that little curl, which I didn't know. Again, I wasn't even paying attention. He goes, hey, Joe, can you do this? Have me pose, so take a picture of me, doing this. Like, yeah, just go do that. I was like, great, that's perfect, thanks. And I walked away, never thought twice of it. And then I'm guessing, 8 years later, maybe longer, I get a text where somebody says to me, hey, I didn't know you're Superman, some comic book artist. I'm not sure who it was, to be honest. And I go, what are you talking about? And he sent me this photo of the cover. I said, hey, that is me.
He's like, it's all coming back.
Yeah, I do remember that posing for that piece. He never even told me.
So now I have to track a copy of that down, and next time you're in town, I need it signed. I am Superman.
There you go. That's what I tell my kids today. Tell you, go to school and tell your kids your dad's Superman, and I can prove it.
That's right. Yeah, a perfect little word balloon right there.
That's right.
So okay, we've talked about kids in my head, which is
Voices in my head.
voices, kids in my head. That's a whole different thing. Yeah, it was black-eyed kids, and then voices in my head.
Right.
Voices in my head. It's just a few short stories with art that is perfectly matched to each story. That Michael Gaydos story
Beautiful.
that you did is just lovely to look at.
Yeah,
It's
that
beautiful.
when you sent me that first title page, I was like, wow, that is freaking awesome. I love it. I love it. Yeah.
And then there's a Kilroy story that's fantastic. And if I tell you what it made me want to do in the worst possible way, because they're in boxes that are real low down in my closet, is like go back and dig up my old books and read them, because I'm like, I remember Kilroy. That's like a long lost friend I haven't seen, and now I want to catch up.
Okay. I did a Kilroy trade at Image, 18 years ago, something like that. That collected everything, but except for I think 2 short stories I forgot. I left out by accident. So I think you can still buy that through Diamond. I'm not sure.
I'll check into that, because that would be easier than digging down into those boxes.
Right.
I'll tell you that.
And if not, I'll bring you a copy when I come see you.
Oh, there you go. But I'm just telling everybody who is watching this, if you're local here to Huntsville, let us know. We will make sure that we order a copy of Voices in My Head for you. We are going to have them for the wall as well. If you're not local, if you're watching this from Nebraska, California, Texas, wherever, we've got people who watch them all over. Tell your local comic shop that you need this, and tell them before Monday, because Monday is final order cutoff. That's when they have to place their orders. Tell them you need this book. And you make sure that you get your copy of it. If you don't have a local comic shop, check in with your places like whoever, Mid City or whoever. Get your comics. Just make sure you get your copy of this, because I'm just going to tell you right now, the writing is brilliant. It's clever. It's simple. Each story is like set in different kind of time periods and different places, and the writing is perfectly matched to each of those. Different flavors, and then the artwork is just it's exquisite in every single case. Beautiful book, high production values, beautifully produced. Get your copy of this. Don't miss out.
Thank you. Great. And one last question: who wants me to bring a Negative Burn back? Yeah, I'm thinking about doing it. I've already got reached out to several of my friends who will want to be part of it. So if I can find the time to start corralling the cats, which is what it's like doing a anthology, I think I might do it.
I tell you, folks who were around during the 90s, who remember, because Negative Burn was just a stalwart there amongst all of the Marvel and DC stuff that was everywhere. That was one that was always on the top shelf, and it was always right there, and you just had to grab it, because you never knew what you were going to get in there, but it was always going to be good.
Yeah, there was no theme to it. It was like whatever I want to put in, I put in.
Yeah.
So that's what I love most about Negative Burn. It's like I was told when I started it, it'll never last. It's a black and white anthology with no theme. So I went 50 issues and quit on my own terms. And it had multiple Eisner and Harvey Award nominations, Eagle Award nominations. And so I like it because they told me I couldn't do it. So I said, okay, hold my beer.
Yep. So many things are done because somebody said you couldn't do it, and you were too stubborn to let them be right.
Exactly.
See, I don't understand why somebody would tell you that wouldn't work, because to me, those are some of the funnest books out there.
Yep.
They are fun. I enjoy them. They aren't big sellers, and I'm not going to lie about that. They don't sell a ton of copies, but they are entertaining. Nothing else.
Now, and so you've got this book coming out, and then you've got your new venture, a new publishing
Nice
imprint
Circle.
that's going to be selling using Image, I guess, is the
Image will be coming out through Image, and we're a horror themed company, and we're just doing horror one shots, 40-page stories, 48-page titles once a month, and just Garth will do one, Adam Glass will do one, I'll do one, Marguerite Bennett do one, Ron Villa do one, Garth will do another one. We just do it like that. It's just a fun venture for all of us to get together and have fun and tell horrible stories.
And it's called The Ninth Circle, and there's
Circle.
meaning behind that.
It's from Dante's Inferno, Ninth Circle of Hell.
Fantastic.
Yeah, we're a horror company, so we have to be horrible.
The first story that's coming in is going to come our way is what, Freddy the Fix? Is that right?
Freddy the Fix was Garth Ennis and Mike Perkins.
What a killer mix!
It's beautiful. Mike just turned in the last page yesterday. It's beautiful. I love Mike because he's a guy who, like I said, started with Caliber with me in Negative Burn. I'm not know what issue. Then I brought him into Kilroy. He did a couple things here and there at Caliber, and then to watch him go off and become what he has. When he went to CrossGen, his work just took a astonishing leap.
It absolutely did. It's like he went. It's like you could see he was like doing great work, and then this light bulb went off, and it went to transcendent.
Well, I think it's those
him and Butch Geist together on Ruse was one of the coolest things. It's one of my favorite books of all time.
That's the thing about CrossGen, and is that Mike was there with Butch Geist, and there was Steve Epting, and they were all like there together. So Mike was just absorbing that. They all just became so wonderfully better working in that little studio environment. And then Mike just went up and become like a superstar. I mean, he's one of my favorite artists working in the business today.
Oh Lord, yeah, his work on that magazine-sized book he just did with Dan Jurgens, Batman: The First Night.
Yeah, and that's what Ninth Circle. All the books would be magazine size. I know you don't particularly like that, but we the creators wanted the big, we all look at it's like I remember in the '80s when Marvel graphic novels came out, and so you had the Death of Captain Marvel, and then you had Epic, Elric, the Dreaming City. You had Dreadstar, then I believe you had New Mutants debut. Then you had was Starstorm his fifth, the Star Slammers, then X-Men, God Loves, Man Kills. Every one was a freaking event. And that size did not. I mean, I loved that size back then, and it just seemed like I was getting, it's just a production every volume, and that's what we're trying to go for through the here. Again, I know a lot of retailers don't like the magazine size.
We don't have our facilities, our shelving and whatnot, our infrastructure isn't built to accommodate it. Right.
Yeah.
So our shelving isn't, our back issues bins won't accommodate it.
Yeah.
It's very challenging.
Yeah. That's why you have magazine boxes, but that's why I brought you those displays when I came to visit with you. Do you still have those?
We surely do.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So again, it's a challenge. If we get that feedback that people don't like it enough, we'll consider changing stuff around. Right now,
I will say that Dan Jurgens, Mike Perkins book, that was Batman First Night was what it was called, right?
Yeah.
That one was the first one in a long time that felt like it deserved that treatment.
That's
deserved that.
That's
size.
The way to say it.
And I didn't have the negative reaction to it because it felt like it deserved it and it wasn't just gratuitous.
Yeah, that's what I hope you feel with our product.
Was it First Night?
It deserves it.
It's something like that. I want to say it was. And I will say the opposite is kind of true. And if I ever have any of these guys on the show, which we never have yet, would love to, is true for the distillery books, right? That is a killer lineup of creators who have done phenomenal work. And I can't get excited about any of those books. And I don't know why. They don't. It's like great creators doing great work, and none of those books appeals to me, and I can't wrap my head around why that is, because I feel like they should.
Well, I hope
but they
ours
just
do.
don't.
But again, I think they're series, right? They do like miniseries.
Yeah, they do.
Okay, like Lion the Eagle we did with Garth.
That one I loved. I have to confess that the
Okay.
time period of that, Garth Ennis, when he writes a war book, I don't know what it is. He's got this unique talent. When he writes a book that's in a battle, a war setting, be it Enemy Ace or Punisher in Vietnam, World War II, whatever it is, his war books, they just hit different from everybody else's take on the same idea.
That's his love. I mean, he reads that history. He knows that history. He knows every particular, every detail. Like if you draw a plane and the tail is wrong, he'll correct the artist on it, or everything. He is so into it. Matter of fact, we were traveling a lot, doing touring a few years back, and uh, we were just places sometimes. I remember we did a signing in Nova Scotia, in Halifax. The reason we went to Halifax is he wanted to go see a World War II kind of ship, last of its kind, that was in the dock at Halifax. So we used the cover of doing a book signing in Halifax so he could go see that ship. The ironic, horrible twist of this is that we got there and the ship was in dry dock. So,
oh no!
So instead that afternoon we had the wonderful experience of walking to the movie theater and watching that last Jurassic Park movie with Chris Pratt, and the second one he did, which is so horrible. And we watched the movie, and one scene was so cringy. Without saying a word, we both looked at each other at the same moment, and like, really? We didn't. We both felt at the same time. We just looked at each other.
So what you're telling me is we might be able to lure Garth Ennis to Huntsville if we have some good war stuff for him to see.
Ding, 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 ding.
Okay. Yep. Now, are you familiar with the Berman Museum?
I'm not personally.
Okay. Oh. It's halfway between Huntsville and Atlanta.
Okay.
In Anniston.
Oh, Anniston. I know Anniston.
It's in Anniston. Uh-huh. There's two museums. They have the Museum of Natural History and they have the Berman Museum, and they're right next to each other. And you can get a ticket to go into both. At least you could a couple of years ago, like to go to both of them for like $10. The Berman Museum, I want to say his first name was Charles, whatever. Anyway, Mr. Berman. He was an intelligence officer during World War II.
Okay.
And he was interested in warfare and weaponry and this kind of thing. So the museum is kind of like a walk through weaponry over time.
Okay. That's a Garth thing.
And he's got all kinds of stuff. He's got this headsman's sword from someplace in Cambodia or whatever that looks like something from an anime. It's like this 6-foot long blade, really? And the blade is this wide from front to back. And it's not sharp at all, but it didn't have to be. It was humongous. It was going to take your head off, right? And he's got stingers and ballistas and all kind of stuff. And then he gets up into where they're like, okay, now they have guns, and they're messing with what works as guns. And they've got these wackadoo things. It looks like a sawed-off shotgun if the Swiss Army knife people had gotten a hold of it. Mm-hmm. There's a full-size knife, fork, and spoon on a hinge right here that you could pull down like you're going to eat with a shotgun. What are you doing? Okay. And you can't use the knife and fork at the same time, even if you wanted to. But then as you go through, he's got stuff from Hitler's house, stuff from Mussolini's house. He's got the crown of Siam, like the actual crown, not just a replica. He has the actual crown. All this stuff, and it just is the most bizarre collection of things in Anniston, Alabama, of all places.
All right, sounds interesting. I'm gonna Check it out.
You know, you also have the Alabama Veterans Museum in Athens.
Yep. Yep.
So, and I don't know if he would be interested in it, but Joe, you would probably be interested in it. Every year from September to October, we have the Huntsville Ghost Walk.
Okay.
And if you take the Twickenham tour, which that's one of those that the only way you're ever going to know I won the lottery is when I buy a house in Twickenham.
For sure.
But there's several houses in Twickenham that survived the Civil War.
Mm-hmm.
And if you have a good tour guide, they'll talk about those houses and why they actually survived the Civil War, why the Union troops did not burn them down. So, I mean, you could at least get like some Civil War history.
Right. Cool.
So, but I mean, I don't know if he would like something like that, but you also get like all the ghost stories and stuff. I know you would like that.
That's what I like. Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, the Berman Museum, I think, would be of particular interest to Garth. Of all people that I've talked to, Jim Steranko is really interested in that. He wants to come see that.
Oh, cool. Yep. That sounds like he would.
Yeah. I think he just liked all the intelligence officer stuff. I think that gave him flashbacks. He was like, hey, the good old days when you could just take stuff from an indigenous people and nobody thought it was bad.
What? Well, it's fine now. What?
Right. Yeah. Somebody asked the other day, I saw a thing that said, why are all the pyramids in Egypt? And it said, because they were too big for the British to carry off to the British Museum. You're like, yep,
that's actually good.
But yeah, everybody, I know we're running long on time here, but everybody, you need to let your comic shop know that you need Voices in My Head by Joe Pruett and some extraordinarily awesome artists. You also need to be on the lookout for their upcoming imprint called The Ninth Circle. First book out is by Garth Ennis and Mike Perkins, and it's called Freddy the Fix, and it looks spectacular. The art that I've seen, the little bit of intro I've seen for it, it looks phenomenal.
Freddy will be out on December 11th, and Voices in My Head will be out on October 23rd.
That's a beautiful timing for that book. Well done. It's almost like you know when Halloween is.
Something like that.
Marvel seems to forget that on the regular. They're like, we're going to put out this horror book. Oh, in February. Okay. What are you doing? But yeah, really appreciate you coming on the show and talking with us.
It's always late. Yeah.
As always, we look forward to having you back in town to do a signing. We'll get some of your books,
perfect,
your new stuff out. We'll bring you over, and we'll have a good time. We'll take you to some good pizza places.
Oh, I like to do that when I go to a place. I'll say, "Where's the best pizza in the town?" I try to find them and go to them.
Well, what we can do is we'll go get a Terry's pizza and we'll take it to Dead Children's Playground and eat it.
There we go. Only at night.
Dude, that is as old school as it gets right there. You go to Terry's or Big Ed's and take that pizza to Dead Children's Playground. That's like 1985 Huntsville right there.
Let's do it. I'll bring my daughter who will not go to the playground with me. And I'm like, why? He goes, I don't do that stuff. She doesn't like scary stuff.
Well, not everybody does. But yeah, thanks so much for joining us. We really appreciate it. It's always good talking with you.
You too.
All right. Have a good one, brother. Thank you.
I think everybody. All right. Cheers.
All right, everybody. We're going to sign off now. And as you know, we used to be, I don't guess you know, Joe, but we used to be a quiz show. And we have this little outro for the quiz show. It was the last question, and it just reminds me of Spy Hunter from 1984. So we're going to play you out, and we will catch you guys next week.